I want to talk today about the God whom we should all worship. Many people say that religion is a purely personal thing. You can worship God or gods if you like, that's fine. But if not, that's fine too. I want to question that approach. I think it's wrong. The Bible's opening verse tells us that God is the creator of this vast universe, of everything that exists. And if that's true, as I believe it is, we should all worship him. Not some other god or gods, but the true God who made everything. And so religion is not a matter of personal choice, but a question of who God is. That's a strong claim, I know, but I think it's quite reasonable. Think about it. Everything was made by this God. Stars, planets, this earth, everything in it, animals, plants, insects, cells, bacteria, the food we eat, the materials we make our clothes from, the fuel for our cars, everything ultimately originates with this God. And he continues to provide everything that is needed for life on this earth. The Bible puts it like this. It says, in him, in God, we live and move and have our being. So, as God, he is to be worshipped by all of us, everyone. What about all the bad things, you say? Viruses, germs, poverty, inequality, violence, war, hatred, corruption. These things cause great suffering in our world, of course, but we have to understand that none of those things was there at the beginning. When God made this world, he made it all very good. It's described as a paradise. And it's we, the human race, that have brought these ugly, evil things into the world because of our disobedience of God. So, this world is God's, we're his creation, we depend on him for everything, ultimately, and so we should worship him. In other words, we should honour him as God in all our life. And that means obeying his commands, doing what he says, rather than what we want to do. Does that sound harsh and restrictive? Some people think so, but let me tell you what it is that God says we are to do. He says, first of all, we are to love him with all our being, as he is God. He's a God of love, a God of truth, purity, uprightness. He's utterly dependable. We're to love him. And we're to love one another, he says, as we love ourselves. Love, in other words, God says, is to be the rule of our lives, and it's difficult to object to that. But if we don't, the Bible tells us we fall under God's judgment and condemnation because of our disobedience, and so we become liable to his punishment. But that's not the end. In his love, God has made a way for us to escape from the consequences of our wrongdoing and to avoid his punishment. One of the most famous verses in the Bible, John chapter 3 verse 16, says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that is Jesus Christ, that whoever believes on him should not die, but have everlasting life." And so we're called, every one of us, to faith in Jesus Christ, that we may know this God who made everything as our loving Heavenly Father. Well, if you'd like to talk more about these things or hear more about them, please do get in touch with us through our website or on our Facebook page.